Dr. R. Hemavati is an assistant professor in mathematics in Queen Mary's, Chennai. She has specialized on functional analysis. Having 12 years of experience in teaching, she has won various awards for her performance. She has published papers in 14 international journals, 3 national journals, and has presented papers in 10 international and in 5 national conferences. She is also one of the editors for an international journal.
Welcome to UGC lecture series. Applied Statistics. In this session, we are going to talk about economic time series. That is, the objective of this session is to study in detail about time series analysis. In particular, economic time series and different components of time series are dealt with. Time series is used in various fields. In particular, in this session, time series applied to economics is going to be studied. Econometric models of time series. The term econometrics refers to the application of mathematical economic theory and statistical procedures to economic data in order to verify economic theorems and to establish some quantitative results in economics. So, the time series analysis with respect to the applications in economics theory is to be dealt. Actually, time series is used in various aspects in management, in business, etc. It is used with respect to economics aspect. The study is going to be done in this session. Role of time series analysis. Time series analysis is of great significance in business decision making for the following reasons. It helps in the understanding of the past behavior. It helps in planning future operations based on the past behavior. It helps in evaluating current accomplishments. So, all the three are taken into consideration: past, present and future. Past, it makes you to understand the past behavior, and present, it evaluates the current accomplishments, and in the future it plans and gives. So, time series is useful for all the three seasons, that is past, present and future, and it facilitates the comparison between past, present and future. Components of time series. It is customary to classify the fluctuations of time series into 4 basic types of variations, which account for the changes in the series over a period of time. Time series is based upon time, so according to time there will be 4 variations. What are the 4 variations? These 4 variations are based on patterns, variations, movements, or they are often called as components or elements of time series. That is, they are: first, secular trend, seasonal variations, cyclical variations, irregular variations. So, these 4 are the components of time series. That is, they are the different components of time series. Each and every one will be studied detailedly. Look at the following graph showing the sale of a particular product called cola during the years 1996 to 2010. So, the graph shows you on x axis the years from 1996 to 2010, and the y axis shows the sale of billion bottles. Here 12 represents 12 billion bottles are sold and 14 represent 14 billion bottles. The line drawn here represent secular trend. A represent the original data, which is drawn like this. Okay, it is random and it is based on some data, the original data that is drawn in red lines. This represent original data, and the line drawn actually is B, that is this line is B, and the cyclical variations are drawn in dotted lines and it is purple in color. A discussion has to be made about this graph, that is the red curves represent the original data A, and the black line represents the secular trend, and C represent C cyclical variations. The original data in this graph is represented by a curve, the general movement persisting over a long period of time represented by diagonal line drawn through the irregular curve is called secular trend. The type of fluctuation which completes the whole sequence of change within the span of a year and has about the same pattern year after year is called seasonal variation. Furthermore, looking at the broken curve superimposed on the original irregular curve, we found pronounced fluctuations moving up and down every few years throughout the length of the chart, and these are known as business cycles or cyclical variations, which are represented by the dotted lines called cyclical variations. One by one we will see. There are four types of components of time series. One is secular trend, second one is seasonal variations, third one is cyclical fluctuations, and then fourth one is irregular variations. There are various methods for finding the trend values of the given data, and also there are methods for finding the seasonal fluctuations and discussing about their variations. But business cycles can be found only if you eliminate the trend and seasonal variations and irregular movements from the original data. So, there is no specified method for cyclical fluctuations. Only if we eliminate trend and seasonal fluctuations, we will obtain the cyclical variations. And irregular variations, as such by name, it is irregular and it is assumed to be random and it is unpredictable, and therefore, there are no such methods to find out irregular variations. So, there are the methods only to find out secular trend and seasonal variations. We find the cyclical variations by just eliminating the trend and seasonal variations from the original data. So, the original data in this graph is represented by the curve, the general movement persisting over a long period of time represented by the diagonal line drawn through the irregular curve is called secular trend as drawn in the graph. And then seasonal variations, if we study the irregular curve year by year, we see that in each year the curve starts with a low figure and reaches a peak about the middle of the year and then decreases again. So, it is based on the season in the sense there are two types of variations with respect to seasonal variations, that is climate and then tradition habits, like that. It repeats like a wheel round and round. This type of fluctuation which completes the whole sequence of change within the span of year and has about the same pattern year after year is called a seasonal variation. When you look at the broken curve superimposed on the original irregular curve, we find pronounced fluctuations moving up and down every year throughout the length of the chart. These are known as business cycles or cyclical fluctuations. They are so called because they comprise a series of repeated sequences just as the wheel goes round and round. Irregular variations, finally the little sawtooth irregularities on the original curve represent what are referred as irregular movements, and it is completely random in manner and it is unpredictable. There are two types of models comprising the four components of time series. First one is multiplicative model and second one is additive model. So, first multiplicative model mentions in traditional or classical time series analysis, it is ordinarily assumed that there is a multiplicative relationship between these four components. That is, it is assumed that any particular value in series is the product of factors that can be attributed to the various components. Symbolically, for a multiplicative model, all the four variations are multiplied together. That is, the original data y value is equal to trend into seasonal into cyclical into irregular. So, trend into seasonal, T stands for trend and S stands for seasonal and C stands for cyclical fluctuations and I stands for irregular variations, where y is the result of the four elements. Okay. So, y is equal to T into S into C into I, and it is mentioned like T trend, S seasonal variation, C cyclical variation and I irregular variation. If the above model is employed, the seasonal, cyclical and random items are not viewed as absolute amounts, but rather as relative influences, because they are influenced by the outside factors, relative factors based on the changes in climate or the tradition, like that. Thus, a seasonal index of 110% would mean that actual value is 10% higher than 100, otherwise would be because of seasonal influences. Thus, this particular model is appropriate for those situations in which percentage changes best represent the movement in the series. Next one is additive model, where all the four variations are added to obtain the result. An approach is to treat each observation of time series as the sum of these four components. Symbolically, y is equal to T plus S plus C plus I. When this relationship is assumed, the major aim of time series analysis is to isolate those parts of overall variation of the time series which are traceable to each of these four components and measure each part independently. As I was discussing, to find out cyclical fluctuations, trend and seasonal and irregular has to be eliminated. If you want a C value, then y should be subtracted with the T, S and I. So, C is equal to y minus T minus S minus I. Like that, we have to calculate each one independently. Apart from multiplicative model and additive model, there are numerous variations of these basic models. The models are y is equal to T into C into S plus irregular movements separately, that is trend into cyclical into seasonal plus irregular movements are separately calculated. This model is a composite of multiplicative and additive model. Or y is equal to Tc plus Si. T and cyclical fluctuation, trend and cyclical fluctuations are separated and seasonal and irregular variations are separated. Are two such variations. First one, trend. It is actually usually called as secular trend, but a trend is represented by the letter T because S already stands for seasonal variations. So, first one, the secular trend. The term secular trend or simply trend is very popularly used in day-to-day conversation. For example, we often talk about the population, prices, production, etc. are showing an upward trend. Population is increasing day by day and price also increases, production also increases. So, they are upward trend, and there are all sorts of trends. Some series increase slowly and some increase fast, others decrease at varying rates, some remain relatively constant for long periods of time, and some after a period of growth or decline reverse themselves and enter a period of decline or growth. So, there are various trends, one fast, increasing, slow, decreasing, fast, like that. There are various sorts of trend. Broadly speaking, the various types of trends are divided under two heads: linear or straight line trends and non-linear trends. Linear trends, in the sense we will get a straight line equation for the trend values, and non-linear trends we get a curve equation or a parabolic equation or a exponential equation, like that. Factors affecting trend. The most important single factor responsible for rising trends in series like prices, production, sales, etc. has been the ever increasing population. Also, the factors affecting trend, on the other hand, is declining trends in certain series are the result of technological, institutional and cultural changes. Next, we talk about seasonal variations. Seasonal variations are those periodic movements in business activity which occur regularly every year. For example, a change is appearing in the month of March, the same change will occur in the March next year also. That kind of variation is called seasonal variation and have their origin in the nature of the year itself. The factors that cause seasonal variations are climate and weather conditions. For example, summer starting from March till July, and rainy season starting from August till November, and the winter season starting from November to February or so. So, this kind of weather conditions causing the seasonal variations, and customs, tradition and habits. For example, the custom in the sense celebrating Diwali in the month of October sometimes, and in the month of November, October, November, that kind of variation is also seasonal and it repeats year after year in the same October or November month. So, that is called a custom or tradition, wherein during the month of a traditional function, the prices of cloths etc. goes up, and accordingly we have to calculate the seasonal variations in the particular function month. So, if you take the sales of clothes during the month of Pongal, the traditional functions, sales will go up, and sometimes the sales is very dull when the function is not at all there. So, this kind of variations are seasonal, and that is also one of the factor. So, before we analyze the time series, some adjustments has to be made. The preliminary adjustments before analyzing time series is before beginning the actual work of analyzing a time series, it is necessary to make certain adjustments in the raw data. Adjustments are adjustment for calendar variation, adjustment for population changes, adjustment for price changes and adjustment for comparability. What is the kind of adjustment we will make during calendar variation is the adjustment for calendar variation is made by dividing each monthly total by the number of days in the month, sometimes by the number of working days in the month, thus arriving at daily average for each month. Comparable adjusted monthly data may then be obtained by multiplying each of the values by 30.4167, that is 365 days divided by 12 months. The average number of days in a month in a leap year, this factor is 30.5, that is 366 divided by 12. Next, adjustment made for population changes are the data are expressed on a per capita basis by dividing the original figures by the appropriate population total. Price changes. The effect of price changes can be eliminated by dividing each item in a value series by an approximate price index. That price index has to be specified, or it has to be fixed in before. This in fact is the process of deflating, which has been discussed in the chapter on index numbers. That is immediately after studying the time series, the next study is about index numbers. There this kind of price changes adjustment are studied in detail. Comparability. For any meaningful analysis of time series, it is necessary to see that the data are strictly comparable throughout the time period under investigation. Straight line trend. We will study trend in detail. First, as discussed previously, there are two types of trend. One is a linear trend and another one is non-linear trend. Linear trend, first of all, deals with a straight line trend. What are the various methods of measurement for finding the straight line trend? Are the freehand or graphic method, wherein the data are drawn or plotted on the graph and the data, all the plotted points are joined together by the freehand method. Next, the semi-average method, wherein we will calculate the averages for half of the years given and another half of the years given, and then two halves are added and again an average is found out. That kind of calculating the trend is called a semi-average method. Third one is method of least squares, where a specified equation is there for a straight line trend as y is equal to a plus bx, and we have to calculate the values of a and b. First of all, we will study about freehand or graphic method. This is the simplest method of studying trend. Under this method, the given data are plotted on a graph paper and a train line is fitted to the data just by inspecting the graph of the series. That is, as I told, you have to just join the plotted points by the freehand method. When a trend line is fitted by the freehand method, and attempt should be made to make it conform as much as possible to the following conditions. It should be smooth, either a straight line or a combination of long gradual curve, no kind of irregularities in the curve. The sum of the vertical deviations from the trend of the annual observations above the trend line should equal the sum of the vertical deviations from the trend of the observations below the trend line. Also, one more thing has to be taken into account, that is the sum of the squares of the vertical deviations of the observations from the trend should be as small as possible. One more thing is the trend should bisect the cycles so that the area above equals the area below the trend, not only for the entire series but as much as possible for the each full cycle. First of all, we will find out the trend line by the freehand method. This is one illustration. Fit a trend line to the following data by the freehand method. Here, from 2002 to 2010, the production of sugar in million tons are given. That is, for the year corresponding to 2002, the production of sugar is 20 million tons, and similarly for 2003 it is 22, etc. Up to 2010 the production is 25. So, you have to study like this. For from 2002 to 2010 the values are given. We have to plot this in the graph. Draw the graph for 2002. This is 2003, 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Corresponding to 2002, the value is 20. 20 is plotted here. Okay. So, this is actually 2002, 20, a pair. Like that, the values are plotted and actual data is first drawn. This line shows the straight line like this. This maroon color line shows the actual data, and then we have to draw the trend line by the freehand method. This blue line represent the trend line drawn through a freehand method. Okay. So, you can just compare how much the actual data fluctuates with respect to the trend. This is drawn. In this session, we started with economic time series. So, economic time series is studied, and also various components of time series like trend, seasonal variations, cyclical variations and irregular variations are studied with an example. Multiplicative and additive models are discussed. Also, the methods to calculate a secular trend, seasonal and cyclical variations are discussed. Adjustments to be made before analyzing time series are also discussed. Based on the discussion in this session, the following questions may be posed. What are the different components of time series? What are the factors that cause seasonal variations? Explain the methods to calculate trend. What are the adjustments to be made before analyzing time series analysis? Thank you.